Welcome to AM Best Audio.
The independent agency channel continues to demonstrate remarkable resilience despite several years of challenging market conditions. In fact, independent agents maintain their dominant position in both commercial and personal lines, while industry underwriting results improve significantly, driven by stronger loss and combined ratios, according to the Big I's 2026 Market Share Report. I'm Lori Chortis for AM Best Audio, and joining us now to discuss the report's key findings, what they reveal about the current state of the property casualty market, and what lies ahead for independent agents and insurers, is Charles Symington. He's president and CEO of the Independent Insurance Agents and Brokers of America. Charles, welcome. It's wonderful to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lori. I appreciate the invitation and speaking with you again, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
As am I. Charles, can you give us an overview of the 2026 Market Share Report and its most significant findings for insurers and independent agencies?
Yeah, sure thing, Lori. And you hit upon this in your opening remarks, and it's that our report confirms that the IA channel really maintains its dominant position in the PC market, placing 62% of all property and casualty insurance written in the United States market in 2025, and that's the year covered in this report. And percentage-wise, that 62% is a small uptick from the prior year, but in premium dollars, that increase is more than $5 billion more that's going through the IA channel, so very sizable. So the IA system is not just maintaining its position, but it's also expanding it. And digging a little deeper into those numbers, independent agencies placed about 87.7% of commercial lines, and also the IA system's share of personal lines continue to grow and is now at 39.5%. And when you look at that number over the course of several years, that's up 3 points since 2021. So a lot of growth the last 5 to 6 years in the personal lines market in particular. We've also continued to gain traction in surplus lines and private flood insurance, with those utilization rates also showing an uptick. And so at the end of the day, this report really shows the resiliency and the solid performance of independent agencies, even through the hard market that now we're starting to come out of a little bit. And hopefully we'll talk about that a little later on in our conversation. But the last thing I want to highlight is this report is just one of a series of significant research reports and releases that the Big I will have in the coming months. Our annual best practices study update is due out later this summer in mid-August. Our biennial agency universe study, and that's kind of really our preeminent report, and it's the industry benchmark on the state of the IA channel. That's coming out in September. And then we also partner with J.D. Power on an annual carrier satisfaction survey. That's going to be released also in September. So we've got a lot of good information on the IA system coming late summer, early fall. And I hope to come back and join you again to share the positive results on all those studies. So again, thanks for having me today as well.
Oh, I look forward to that conversation. Well, Charles, as you mentioned, the independent agency channel now places 62% of all U.S. property casualty premiums. What's enabled independent agency agents to maintain such a strong market position through the hard market? And how is the Big I helping your members build on that momentum?
Well, thank you, Lori. I can spend a lot of time on this question, but I think, bottom line is because independent agents offer both personal and commercial clients the choice, guidance, service that they need in a hard market, right? And I think the strength of the IA system, and again, it's so strong, it really becomes more prominent when you see some marketplace disruption and challenges, as we've seen in certain parts of the country during the hard market. So, during a hard market, of course, coverage options are more limited. And so working with numerous carriers, I think, gives IAs kind of a leg up and that flexibility necessary to best serve consumers and customers. Now, as the market has begun to shift, I think IAs are on a very firm footing and poised to make the most of these improving conditions because the options and those choices now will only increase coming from IAs as restrictions in the market ease. So it's a key strength in a hard market, and I think that because the market will free up, for lack of a better term, a little more in a softening market, those strengths will only continue. And in terms of how the Big I is helping our members build on that momentum, this is where I could really spend a lot of time, but I'll try to condense it. First, we've been expanding our market access programs that the Big I, promotes and implements, and we've developed those over the course of the hard market. But we're going to continue to make them better, build them better, more effective. Our new Big I Alliance is helping smaller and startup agencies in particular gain a foothold in the market by assisting with carrier appointments and premium aggregation so they can offer their customers more choice. And then the other thing we've really been intentional about is we've been offering a host of digital resources for our members during the hard market through various toolkits, is what we call them, to assist our members in communicating on difficult and complicated subject matters with their clients. So first we had hard market toolkits. We had a couple of iterations of that to provide context around the hard market for customers. We had a legal system abuse toolkit to help our agents talk about the impact of litigation on insurance rates. And of course, that plays into the hard market as one of the primary drivers of the hard market. We also have a toolkit on implementing and using AI, along with a webinar series. Of course, AI is a real hot topic in our industry and other industries right now. And now we're looking to maybe come out of a hard market into a softer market, we're preparing an evolving market toolkit to aid independent agent discussions with clients on the changing marketplace. And that's going to come out later this summer. And then we have a whole suite of digital marketing resources for agencies, everything from marketing reimbursement programs to Google business profile help and social media content. And then speaking of digital, our latest resource is an all-new online agency locator, trustedchoice.com. It's designed to drive business to our members' virtual doors, and our members list their profiles on that site, and insurance shoppers can get connected with a local agency that matches their needs. It's really a win-win for consumers and our members in the market. Here's the best part of the new tc.com, because it's a new version of it. It comes as part of the Big I membership. So for Big I members, it comes at no additional cost. And so we're really excited about this new version of trustedchoice.com, and it's getting great response so far from our membership.
Charles, combined ratios improved to 88 in 2025, while loss ratios also declined. What do they signal about the broader property casualty market today?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, in the broader market, improved underwriting results from carriers are certainly help us move towards that long-awaited shift, right, from the hard market to the soft market that I referenced earlier. And of course, that's going to benefit consumers, hopefully, with lower premiums and more coverage options, both in terms of affordability and availability. And of course, these insurance cycles, you know this very well, as I'm sure the listeners do. These insurance cycles are the normal ebb and flow, right, of our insurance marketplace, the vicissitudes of the insurance market. I'm a political animal, as you know, too, so I always talk about the vicissitudes of politics, right? That political pendulum swings back and forth. Well, that happens in our insurance market, of course, as well. But the Big I, we've been really focused about using our government affairs advocacy strength, which, speaking of politics, right, really what we're known for, to try and kind of prod this move along in the insurance cycle. And we're trying to do that through some legislative and regulatory changes. And so, as an association, we took the lead in recent marketplace and legal system reforms in a number of key states, such as Florida and Georgia, and now New York, and most recently North Carolina. And, that'll start modernizing the market in those really important states, and hopefully start curbing the abuse of the court system, which we believe has driven up premiums pretty significantly. So it's always, these changes take time. Again, to use another insurance term, there's a long tail on some of these changes in terms of legislative and regulatory modernization. But we are starting to see this already, in particular in Florida, and now just starting up in Georgia. So far, so good, and we hope more positive results for the marketplace will come down the pike. And our state associations really led the charge in those states on getting these reforms passed. I think the Big I were organized as a confederation of state associations, not unlike the National Association of Realtors or Home Builders. And so we've got boots on the ground, both in terms of staff and members in every state, And as a state regulated business, that's critically important. So we were very happy to take the lead on a lot of these coalitions for our industry. And hopefully we'll continue to do so in other states as well. And we're also working, hard here in DC, where I'm based, on legal system abuse in particular, trying to curb the practice of third-party litigation funding. And I know you're familiar with that, but that's where outside investors place bets on our court system to the detriment that we believe to policyholders and the overall insurance marketplace. So we're trying to tackle that through either increased transparency of those arrangements, throw a little sunshine on them. Oftentimes, sunshine is the best disinfectant, or through changes in the tax treatment of third-party litigation funding. And we've been making some headway in DC on that, and we'll continue also, hopefully, doing the same in the future.
Customize your data experience. BestLink now offers an interactive company dashboard that provides company-level intelligence in a fast, user-friendly interface featuring interactive tables, charts, and Sparkline performance histories. Customize the dashboard tiles to prioritize the insurer ratings, data, and analytics that best support your workflow. AM Best. Our insight, your advantage.
Independent agents continue to gain ground in personal lines, surplus lines, and private flood insurance. Charles, what trends are fueling growth in these areas?
I think a lot of it goes back to, what I mentioned earlier, the independent agent proposition, choice, advocacy, personalized advice, relationships, right? That's really driven a lot of these improvements through the hard market. But when you look at these a little more specifically, the personal lines growth, again, over the past 4 or 5 years, about a 3% increase now in the use of the IA distribution system in personal lines. I think that's proof positive of that. We're gaining market share there. And then in surplus lines, any hard market, you're naturally going to see a growth in the E&S market. And so, our members, independent agents, are helping consumers understand that unique type of coverage and how that can be offered as an option. And of course, we're working very closely with our partners in the surplus lines market to provide those options and that flexibility to both primarily business, but also at times personal lines customers. And then on private flood, certainly we are, as an organization, very strong supporters of the National Flood Insurance Program. It's a very necessary federal program. But we are also seeing private options slowly expand. These regional weather events are occurring more and more frequently. Recently, for example, the recent flooding in Texas, yesterday in Missouri, earlier in the week, are crystal clear examples of that. And our thoughts and prayers go out to those impacted by those horrible floods. But it also speaks to the need for both coverage through the NFIP and also more private flood options. And so we'd like to feel that our members are trying to fill that void as well.
As market conditions begin to stabilize, how are carriers and independent agencies adapting their strategies to remain competitive and meet evolving customer needs?
Well, and it is evolving very rapidly. And two things really stand out to me. First, it's the overall trend in the industry. This is somewhat recent, but it's something that we've been seeing over the course of the last several years. There's a clear trend now towards carriers using independent agents more and more and to a larger extent. Those carriers that have long used IAs, we feel now are doubling down, right? They're investing more and more in the IA system and in the Big I as the preeminent trade association representing independent agents. And of course, we thank them for that. But we're also seeing more and more carriers and some very big names and surprising names that are now using the IA system as an important part of their overall distribution strategy. And they see the quality of business that IAs produce, and naturally they want a piece of that because it is very high quality, stable, reliable, long-lasting business. And so what insurance carrier wouldn't want that as part of their overall business profile? So we certainly welcome these new IA and Big I partners, as well as our longtime IA carriers and Big I partners. So I believe the future of the IA system is very bright, and the marketplace dynamics are kind of bearing that out right now. And that's the second thing I'd point out is now more than ever, carriers and independent agencies are working together to make technology more seamless for both our business and consumer, business clients as well as personal lines clients. And it's what the marketplace is demanding. In fact, this is the mission of the Big I Agents Council for Technology, which is doing great work in this area. And what ACT does is we bring together key industry stakeholders to strategize and work together on the best ways to improve agency workflows and efficiencies so that we all can eventually work together to help create a seamless consumer experience, particularly at claims and renewal times. And of course, a huge component of this is artificial intelligence, and ACT is also helping agents use that much more effectively through virtual sessions such as our AI Labs, webinar series, and a number of other digital handbooks, tools, resources, and education. So a lot of great activity right now through ACT, and we're very proud of that.
Charles, looking ahead, what opportunities and challenges will shape the independent agency channel? And how do you expect insurer-agent relationships to evolve over the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, that's a great question. And, look, of course, trying to look into my crystal ball, I've got to start off with how I ended answering your previous question, and that's AI adoption. Well, right, we'll continue across the insurance ecosystem, which is going to bring very sizable efficiencies across the various chains in that ecosystem. However, I also believe relationships, including those between the agent and the underwriter and the carriers, they need to continue to involve some very important human interaction. Of course, this is also especially important in the agent-customer relationship. Customers still value that human touch. And while AI can create wonderful efficiencies, and that's going to leave more time for relationship building, for RAs, so they can be the great salespeople that they are. And that's also so important to families and small businesses who are buying insurance. So our studies show that time and again, AI will be an enhancer and will magnify the value that independent agents bring to the market. So I think it's going to make our folks better at what they do. And again, we'll only continue to highlight the tremendous value that the independent agency system brings to customers, but also to our carrier partners. And then beyond AI, if I could continue. So we talked about the cycle, right? Moving to a softening market. But that movement has been uneven, right? It's not a monolith. And so while we are seeing some relief in the property market, the casualty market is lagging behind, right? It's a different story. And because that's more impacted by that legal system abuse that we talked about earlier. And that's one of the reasons why this legal system abuse is a top priority for us from an advocacy perspective, both at the state and the federal level. And it's also a high priority for the entire industry. And we're working very closely with our carriers and a lot of their trade associations as well, on this important issue. And, M&A is also a perennial development, and has a huge impact on our marketplace. And although the rate of M&A activity has slowed somewhat over the past couple of years, we are still in a somewhat active M&A environment. Yet the number of independent agencies has remained, this is the good news, has remained really stable over the past 20 years. I mentioned that Agency Universe study earlier in our conversation, and that's where we do this snapshot of the overall number of IAs. And so in 2025, it stands at about 39,000 agencies, which again is very static over the course of many, many years. But we are seeing a barbell effect of sorts in the IA space, with the number of small agencies increasing and the larger agents and brokers, getting bigger and bigger. And so it's our job at the Big I, and we're the only trade association with this mission and with the breadth and scope of our membership. Our job is to ensure that we give those smaller agencies the tools they need to grow and succeed, so that we can continue to replenish that middle part of the IA space that again is so critically important to carriers, consumers, and other participants in the marketplace. I do also expect in the next 12 to 24 months a continued and sustained investment in the IA system by our carrier partners. The IA system is a proven winner. And again, I discussed the increasing use of independent agents by carriers earlier, but also from a producer perspective, the returns associated with owning and operating a privately held independent agency or brokerage are absolutely incredible. According to Reagan Consulting, which is a very close Big I partner, those returns outpace the S&P pretty sizably over the last 35 years. And the S&P has a pretty good track record when you look at it over 35 years. So the IA channel holds great opportunity for agency owners and entrepreneurs, those that want to be in small businesses. And we need to be honest, to do a better job at telling that story, because that's going to help us with a perennial challenge that our industry faces. And this is where I'll end. And that's, of course, finding talent, right? It's talent recruitment. Finding the best talent is always a focus for independent agencies. I know it's important for our carriers too. And now there's a new wrinkle in that, because now we want to attract that kind of tech savvy next generation of talent that can work on further AI implementation in the IA channel. And so finding the best talent, hopefully, again, we'll be better storytellers of the tremendous opportunity that the IA space offers, both in terms of financial success, but also flexibility and being involved in your local communities and being there for your neighbors and friends in their times of need. I mean, obviously, I'm a big advocate for the IA system. I'm the CEO of the National Association representing IAs, but it's such a wonderful industry, and we have to tell that story a little bit better because it's a tremendous career choice, and we need to continue to bring in that great talent. So, in summation, over the next 24 months, I think the winners in the market are going to be carriers and agents who treat each other less like vendors and more like business partners, and work strategically in alignment. And our job at the Big I is to bring these important stakeholders together, and we're going to continue to do just that.
Charles, this has been a fascinating and informative discussion, and it's been such a pleasure speaking with you again. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Lori. And as I said earlier, I hope to join you again sometime soon.
I look forward to it. That was Charles Symington, President and CEO of the Big I. For AM Best Audio, I'm Lori Chortis.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.